Hi, good evening. Kong Hei Fa Choi. Happy Chinese New Year. Okay, as always, we're going to give it a couple of minutes so that we can get settled in and also for you to get into the festive mood. Now, before I bring in, of course, the reference to the comments and all of that, right? So let us know if you can hear this loud and clear, right? Including, of course, the fireworks, okay? It is all, of course, in the festive spirit with the firecrackers going off, but let me know in case they're too loud, okay, so that we can actually, adjust the volume a little bit. Okay? It's going to take a couple of minutes for things to get settled in. Okay, once again, if you're joining me right now, well, first of all, Kong Si Fa Cai to you. Happy Lunar Chinese New Year. This is, of course, the fourth day, right, of the Chinese Lunar New Year celebrations. It is the 1st of February. So there is, of course, a milestone there itself because soon, in a couple of days, we will actually be starting the Solar New Year as well, which comes in at, I believe it's 10:21 p.m. on February the 3rd. So that's going to be very close, of course, to the lunar cycle. Of course, that's one layer of the information by itself, right, where the coincidence, okay, or the overlapping of the start of the Lunar Chinese New Year is quite close, of course, to the solar one, right? So Gary says thumbs up, so I hope this is loud and clear, but are the fireworks, the firecrackers rather, are they too overwhelming or not? Or should we just leave them on for a while, okay, because we obviously can't hear them while I am actually speaking live here. Yeah? So do let me know, Gary, if the firecrackers are too loud, even though we want to usher in as much auspicious, strong, and of course, yang energy as possible, okay? So if you've just joined me, of course, I urge you, if you can, to share this forecast and this outlook out, right, on your timeline, especially if you are, of course, following us, you're following and using Chinese Metaphysics. That would be really, really appreciated because that is, of course, a way to get information out there and, of course, to assist as well with the information of the forecast, the outlooks, and whatever that we share here in terms of being able to benefit and being of use to the people and friends on your timeline. So share away, right? And that would be very much appreciated. And speaking of sharing, if you could officially follow me on my official page, those of you who are tuning in from there, that would also be much appreciated because it is going to help me in terms of the numbers. And by virtue of that, it also helps me in certain aspects when it comes to being able to deal with, of course, suppliers, customers, and things like that. Yes, Marianne, Kong Hei Fa Choi to you, Marianne. Well, I'm sure you can hear me loudly, but the firecrackers, right, you want to keep it going? I think we keep it going until we actually start the presentation, okay? So we don't have music, right? So it's just firecrackers going off and off and off, right? But whatever it is, of course, an auspicious way to greet the first month of the new year, the solar year, well, about a couple of days before we actually started, right? So, of course, the Tiger month itself, which is extremely significant because it kicks off the entire year, every single year, it is coming up in about 2 days, 48 hours time from now. So that's why I decided to just slot this in, even though, of course, it's pretty much still in the midst of the main celebrations of Chinese New Year, especially in Malaysia, right? In, of course, Singapore, Gary it is much more serious, right? So they I think, only had 2 official days of public holiday, and I think used to be like even 1 day or something like that. And I'm sure if you are off on Friday, you officially, if you are in the workforce, you have to take leave, right, to be able to enjoy Friday off as well. But in Malaysia, it's like, of course we're going to take Friday off, right? At least up to Sunday, and then start work only on Monday, February 3rd itself. So that's also a good strategy overall. So I hope those of you who are tuning in from Singapore that you're doing that, because February 3rd as an official start work day is way more auspicious than yesterday, which was basically January 31st. Even just by the calendar month itself, there is the difference between January and also February. Okay, so just give it another minute, right? We are celebrating Chinese New Year, so of course now, right? I have to also do that with the accompaniment here, which is not meant to be a promo of any sort in particular, but because the brand, okay, this is Tiger, it is Chinese New Year, so I'm just going to have a sip of this. And then, of course, we're welcoming the Tiger month officially, which is the first month that kicks off every solar month, right? So more about that in a short while I take a sip. So in the meantime, Kong Hei Fa Choi, to Owen as well, who's joined me live on the page, and I'm also going to refer to this in a moment after I take a sip of this beverage. If you are watching this I hope you're still in the CNY mood lah. So grab yourself a beverage, right? If you have not already done so, and enjoy the forecast this time around in a more celebratory fashion because, of course, of the celebration mode that we're in. Okay, so let me just quickly grab this and look into another page, which is my personal page. Hi, Felicia. Happy Chinese New Year to you. And if you just know me right now, this is a special on not only the monthly forecast that's on one level, because I do this every single month, and when I'm in my home base in KL, we're able to, with the assistance of Nicole and the rest of the team, set this up for you, okay? So maybe we can start to fade off the firecrackers, okay? As I encourage those of you who just joined me, in case you have not been able to share this live out to your timeline. If you can do that, that would be appreciated. And if you can officially follow me on my official page, Kong Yu, that would also be really, really awesome, yeah? Kong Hei Fa Choi to you, Stuart, right? Sao Do from Jessie and everyone. And we'll see whether there'll be surprise guests. Nicole, of course, is behind the scenes. You want to do a shout out? Right? You want to just wish everyone? So they can hear or not? So soft. Yeah. Right? She's already, because we are in Chinese New Year. Yeah, what else? Okay, right. So Nicole there, right? Chinese New Year greetings. Hi, Kong Fa Chua to you, Angeline, Nyok Wei, of course, and whoever else is watching that has not said anything yet. So of course I do, and I think because this is kicking off the new year, so if you want to jump in and give everyone a greeting, I think that would be really lovely to boost up the energy as well overall, okay? So let's begin. So now the firecrackers have already popped. Okay, so now let's start with the official outlook for February. Now, of course, it is a very, very auspicious start overall. Every time we come to, now we're of course talking about February 3rd, right? The Lap Chun date itself, the official first day of spring, right? Even though right now, of course, it's a couple of days away from it. So this is super, super important, right? Kong Hei Fa Choi, Kong Si Fa Chai to Serious Bride in Singapore. And every single year, it does kickstart, of course, with the Tiger Year. Right now, to be honest, I've been observing and, of course, doing my own contemplation and also, you can say, research and analysis of the everything, right, to do with Chinese metaphysics overall, including the fact that every first day of spring falls in, or begins rather, kickstarts the Tiger month itself, yeah? So I think for a few years, I was not very convinced, or rather, I just needed more time to basically observe a trend and also, of course, for my own satisfaction of my own technical mind, right? Now, every Lap Chun starts with the tiger. So there have been people, including myself, who have questioned the validity of analyzing the Lap Chun chart, which is, of course, the key part of annual and pretty much a lot of the annual updates and forecasts, including, of course, that it was presented by Jessie, yeah? So for a few years, I was also in the mind, like, does it make sense that every single Lap Chun chart will always contain a tiger, right? Then means it will always give that solid one whole pillar of tiger, which is basically mostly Jia Wood energy, right? And does it make sense? So after many years of thinking about it and experiencing it and also analyzing it and with the experience of Bazi itself, right? I've come to the conclusion that yes, it's very significant and it is for a reason, right? That the Jia Wood that is, of course, powering the tiger with, of course, the Ping fire. You will see more of that in the next couple of pages. And the residual of the earth there, Yang Earth, right? Starts every single year. So that is very significant, and that is how important the tiger animal sign is in terms of propelling and launching growth. So that is the reason why, right? And that's the reason why it belongs to every single analysis of the year's birth itself, which is, of course, in this year will be February 3rd on 1021. Now, those of you, of course, who followed us and have attended or have seen the replay for the annual talk, all the analysis is there already, right? So it is very important. Thus, this first month, which is basically the Tiger month itself, right? So more about that, but just a quick glimpse at it, right? So in this lineup of spring season 2025, we begin with the Earth Tiger and then we move to the Earth Rabbit and then after that, it will culminate with the metal dragon, right? So every layer has its significance, including the fact that this year's tiger comes with Wu Earth on top, right? But the more important fact that I want to emphasize is the importance of tiger, right? Which of course mainly contains Jia wood, Yang wood, and contains the growth of Bing fire, Yang fire, right? And then of course coming with the residual of Yang earth as well in establishing every single year. So that's why ever since I had that big realization and that yes, it is so important and it's always there beginning the year because it propels growth for the entire year. And not only that, right? Because last year was Jia Chen, Yang wood with the dragon. It actually establishes the start of the whole of period 9 with that availability to grow, right? That Jia wood that came with the dragon. So we'll recap a little bit on that as well for today's outlook, okay? Because it is very important. It's not only a monthly outlook, of course, gives us the guidance is how best to use the energy of the month itself. But in this case, it has the importance of kicking off the entire year itself. Okay, so 恭喜发财 to you, Alina, as well. Thanks for tuning in live. And before we get into that, just a few thoughts here, right? Additional thoughts on the yi si, on the wood snake itself, right? Which already in many layers we have felt this energy, and now we're just waiting for that final little bit, which is probably like a 5% of energy, right? When we, as in like the remaining 5% that will be here, right? Up to February 3rd, which is about 48 hours away from now. Now, of course, the main thing is that there is a shift of the main theme of the year, okay, from Jia wood, Yang wood, of course, to Yi, which is basically Yin wood. That is very significant as well in terms of what? In terms of the type of growth energy that first, of course, is established last year in 2024, which is structural, aggressive expansion, rapid expansion growth, which is personified as Jia or Yang wood, right? And then moving and passing on the energy to basically Yi wood, which is more sideways, which is more flexible, which is more about diversification on the sideways perspective, right? And then also, of course, with other related energies like networking, appearances, because Yi wood is more on one level, it is more the energy of flowers, for example, right? So there will be more of that. And then, of course, associated with that is the ability to be charming, right? Use persuasive skills, be able to avoid, right? Seem, right? So be able to, flow and adapt and be agile that way. So Yi wood, of course, is more of that energy compared to the very much upright but very strong structural foundation and aggressive energy of Jia wood, right? Then, of course, the earthly branch, the animal sign, as we all know it, it is the year of the snake. And within the snake itself, right, is a whole bunch of possible outcomes, right? That means with the snake as the main energy of the year, right, the Tai Shui, the Grand Duke, etc., right? Where does that allow us to go? Right? What sort of energetic connections can we make with the snake? Where can we possibly work on? Can we actually use it to tap into energy of the past? And how does it relate to energy that is about to unfold in the next like 4, 5 to 6 years and so on? So for that, of course, we look into in a way you can say the depth and the layers and also the complexity of the animal sign of which for this year it is in the snake. Now, just to zoom into it, we know that, of course, in the snake itself is mainly Yang fire, which is Peng, right? And it also contains the seed or the growth of Geng metal, which is Yang metal. And, of course, just like the other two growth stars that kickstarts every season, right? Namely, of course, we talk about the tiger and then also the monkey itself, right? It will also contain a bit of residue earth from the end of the previous season, right? So of the current season as well. So the only one that does not, of course, is the pig, for the fact that it is about to complete the zodiac cycle, right? And then we're supposed to have released anything that's represented by Earth, which includes, of course, attachments. So that's the cycle of the growth of every animal sign within the 12 animal sign zodiac cycle. Now, for the snake, it is very, very interesting. It is quite complicated, and that's why, because within that complication, just like there's a lot of complication but depth in the dragon. And no surprises, right, with the information that we've uncovered and we've shared, and we personally have discovered as well, right? These two animal signs, the dragon moving into the snake, are very rich, multi-layered, and offer a lot of opportunities for in-depth work itself, right? So from the dragon, moving on to the snake, right? And also in between this connection, as those of you who have followed the annual talk and other related recent workshops as well, you know that it is the portal, right? That is basically in Soon Kwa itself in Southeast too, right? So that's why it is very, very rich and offers us a lot of opportunity. And that's why we've been sharing that already. And we'll continue to share it as the year unfolds, and including, of course, in our special workshops, of which for myself, I'm very excited in ramping up, in sharing all of these possibilities with you, of course, in Manifest Your Life 2025 version, which is exactly a month from now. Of course, it's 4 weeks because February is a short month, right? So 4 weeks from now, I will be sharing with you more information on the workshop. I know many of you have signed up for it. In case you haven't, of course, the link is already posted there if you'd like to join me on unraveling and thus be able to tap into and utilize the complexities and the multi-layers of the snake energy. Yeah? But just looking at it here, right? So we know it already contains all of this effect. And if we look at it from the actual pillar itself, it's basically yeet wood, it's just wood on top, and then it is sunlight fire mainly at the bottom, isn't it? So that alone tells us that, oh, there is some growth energy here that is encouraged. Because sunlight, of course, is the main power source of growth. It's the main ignition, you can say, right, activator of growth energy on Earth. That's why we rely on the sun not just only to give warmth, right, so that the earth is not a cold place, and so that life can live and grow and prevail. But at the same time, it is, of course, the agent that induces photosynthesis, which is how plants grow and thrive, right? And because of that, it begins the life cycle, right? Plants get eaten by animals, human beings included, and so on and so forth, and thus the energy cycle on Earth is enabled by virtue of sunlight. But at the same time, we know that wood is supposed to produce fire, correct? And at the same time, fire, in this case, is supposed to reverse grow wood, specifically ping fire. But within the snake, as you have heard already, right, also contains metal. Now, does this metal kind of basically restrict the yeet wood? Of course it does, right? Because that's what metal does to wood. But in this case, for those of you who are familiar with the heavenly stems combination, you know that Keng and Yi are a harmonious yin-yang or husband and wife pairing as a combination as well. So obviously there is the usage and the purpose of Keng metal underneath to give Yi, which is basically formless, right? It's like a plant that is a creeper, you know, it's like flowers that doesn't really have much structure to it, much of a backbone, shall we say, right? So when Keng comes in and gives it that control, it gives it that structure and control. So it is possibly a positive thing as well. But of course, with the other energetic connections enabled by the snake, right, it could also cut it. So that's why there is that additional layer of editing, which I shared before, right? So throughout the year, with the following through from the aggressive structural growth of Xia wood, Yang wood, 2024, wood dragon. Right now we come to wood snake, which is about the theme of sideways, lateral spread, right, growth and so on, right, like marketing, for example, diversification of products, that's another sideways sort of a thing, right, and of course you can say adding, beautifying, right, additional packaging, or those are all images of yeet wood. There is the metal underneath that can censor or edit it. That means you can change it, you can alter it, you can improve on it, and use it as an opportunity to do positive modification, right? So that's another layer of that. Then at the same time, there is the fact that fire produces earth, and within the snake itself contains earth already. So what does that mean, right? So possible additional blockages, okay, or stagnation, or in the most positive way, I would describe it as things remaining as status quo, right? Or whatever that's already resulted, yeah, is still there. Now, whatever that we've achieved is still there. That means even anything that's materialized from a materialistic perspective, whatever that we own, whatever money and cash that we have in the bank, the jewelry that we have in our our safe deposit box and so on and so forth, right? So those are there. Those can be increased, but as you probably know, they can also serve as a blockage and a form of attachments that hinder growth itself. Then when we put that picture together, we've got wood on top and then we've got fire-producing earth, then that also, as Jessie has shared, that's also a clash or a counter of energy by itself. So what starts out as something that is quite beautiful on the surface can have a lot of complexity underneath and possibly a lot of blockages as well if we are not careful the way that we maneuver and use the snake energies for the year. Yeah, so that's why, just like any other animal signs, right, not only do they themselves, as each animal sign contains the challenges and the lessons of which we are able to handle, and if we're able to master and overcome them, right, then we can convert and we can see these opportunities more being brought in through the animal sign itself and through the various interactions with the other animal signs, right? So in other words, the snake, lots of layers there that we can tap into. So that's why by understanding it, and those of you who follow our work and follow our outlook forecast and so on, already know that yes, it is not as simple, one layer, which is how human beings prefer it to be, but with the more layers, additional layers, and the complexities also give us a lot more opportunities as well, right? Provided we put the effort into understanding them and of course be able to accept the importance of, like, for example, inner work, right? Working on our personal growth and so on and so forth, right? So there you go, the wood snake in a nutshell, right? And also in summary as well. So I was saying, right, this year, this month, right, is the Earth Tiger, which starts the spring season, which kickstarts the entire year as well. So that again gives us another layer to understand. Now, of course, this is important for two things. One is, how do we work with the concept of growth, and how is the growth pattern like, right, as a function of what it was carrying into the year, and then of course, how does it serve us for the entire year? So that's one perspective. Now, what is the possible complications that come with this? So we will also look into it as well. And for this, we look into the Earth Tiger itself. So of course, on top is just Yang Earth, just Wu Earth itself, right? But in the Tiger itself, we have again, right, for those of you who are not so familiar yet, we've got it anchored in mostly Jia wood. So it's like the power source, it's like the battery, the dynamo of Jia wood itself, the Tiger animal sign, right? And then of course with it contains the growth of Ping fire. Just like I was saying, right, for the snake, it contains the growth of Geng metal. In this case, it's Ping fire, that is the growth that's contained in the Tiger animal sign. And of course, with that, the Wu Earth, that is a residual qi or a side qi, right, in a more generic general term, that is in the Tiger animal sign. So that's, of course, relevant. Why? Because in this case of the Wu Earth, Yang Earth, Tiger pillar, that is the kickstart to 2025 wood snake year, it is appearing on top. It emerges out, right? So Wu Earth is hidden, originally hidden in the Tiger, but it's now no longer hidden. It reveals itself. So that's significance, okay? Then of course with the Tiger itself, it's like I was saying and emphasizing all throughout so far, it is very important because it kickstarts not only the spring season, but the entire year itself, yeah? It is of course a growth animal sign, which means it is about the seeding growth is about where it can actually bring to as a start, as a kickstart, as a first spring of that element. In this case, it is basically wood and with the seed of fire, right? And in other technical terms, it's also sky horse. It basically causes growth improvement, right? Moving from one phase to another and so on and so forth, right? So that's why overall the ability to travel and move like the horse, right? It is also very important, right, for us personally, and the imagery and the energies which are associated with that, right? So the significance of it is, of course, kicking off the year with this Jia wood, which is this aggressive propelling force that is very, very important. Okay, so now, of course, just as a quick recap, right, and the significance is mostly in the fact that the theme, which is the heavenly stem, right, of last year is Jia wood, right, which is, of course, related to the Tiger, because the Tiger is the main animal sign, right, the foundation, the dynamo, the battery reserve of Jia wood itself. So that's why how the year starts off, okay, is related to the growth that was done last year. So that's why every single time I am doing my monthly forecast in 2024, right, I talk about this. And then when we got to basically winter is when, of course, water is the key element, but water produces wood. So it starts to seed, and it's the foundation of growth of spring in the following year, right? So whatever that we have established and we come to now in terms of growth overall, right? Especially, like I said, structural foundational growth that is more of yang wood or jia wood is already set from whatever that we have done last year. That's very important. And especially with the lead in, right, this was in the monthly forecast towards the end of last year, November, December especially, right? I talk about this, right? Whatever that you want to embrace and have in terms of the energy to kickstart 2025 strongly, to kickstart the wood snake strongly, has to be done and expedited, of course, all throughout 2024, but the last phase of it to aggressively do so, right, is actually in winter of 2024. So every month I come in and lecture, I talk about the same thing. So hopefully you were in a position that you were able to do that, right? Regardless of what jia wood means to you personally, it doesn't really matter if you look at it from the overall energetic perspective, right? Because whatever that again is strengthened, solidified, and emphasized on, especially in the months of November, December, and then moving into January and February, right, will basically establish you for what's to come for the entire of the year, because the year kickstarts with the jia wood. That's one. That it's an annual cycle, right? But at the same time, it appears with the so-called Wu Earth or Yang Earth on top, which on one perspective, it could mean whatever that's already established, a common interest, a common bond, a common success, let's say between parties, or whatever you yourself have accumulated so far. Because Earth is basically the cornerstone, the foundation of manifested reality. So it's a house that you have built, you have owned. Okay, maybe you built yourself also, right? Yeah, because I know some people do that from scratch, right? And then whatever that you've accumulated that's materialized, right? The clothes that you wear, right? The things that you have, all this, that's why they call it material things, isn't it? And of course, the accumulation or whatever, okay? So of course, accumulation can also not be, you know, just a positive, accumulated of karma, right? Accumulated of not so good deeds, right? Accumulation of stress, accumulation of too much, right? Eating too much, accumulating too much flesh, right? Then, of course, accumulating too much blood sugar. That is also part of accumulation, isn't it? So that's why the Wu Earth comes out as a possible blockage. And that's why it is important, of course, for us to have what? A strong enough jia wood. How robust is 2024's jia wood? If it's strong, if it's robust, then of course it's able to crack through, right? So do you see this image here? You have this growth energy that's at the bottom. Of course, it's strong because it's in the tiger. And again, how strong it is, how robust it is, related to how much growth that you've undertaken structurally, foundationally, so in 2024. Then it's underneath, right? And for you to be able to break through, because we're always talking about breakthroughs as well, right? Then you need the ability to have that strong, aggressive jia wood. If not, then the possible top can at least in the most positive way, I can only describe it as status quo. Whatever it is, whatever that's already established. But you know that status quo is opposite or basically limits or is a blockage to growth overall. So that's why, right? So that's why it's important. If you want to crack through the solid or big piece of earth that's on top, like a mountain, and then you've got like this strong, I don't know, like I can say earthquakey potential, right? A breakthrough potential that's hiding at the bottom, right? Strong as it is, you still need to have it strong enough so that it can break through the layer of the solid earth. So that's why for growth overall, it is very important to have that strength of that structural, foundational, yang wood type of energy, especially built for 2024. If not, you can fall into that loop. And again, whenever we have a certain justification that is seemingly logical, it is easy for the mind and hence the ego to just use it. as the reason, right? So it could be, like I said, right, common interest that's already established between two parties or more, right? A status quo, no matter how healthy or how it is, okay, it is a choice. You want to maintain it, yeah, that's a choice itself, but it just means no growth as well. And then blockage, it could be a real obstacle in some way, shape, or form that is blocking you from progressing to the next level. And if your growth energy here, right, anchored by, represented by Jia Wood, is not strong enough, then you would have some difficulty in moving. So you'll be able to understand it, see it as that blockage or that limitation, or wanting or safely being able to justify comfort zone, status quo, and so on. Okay? So now let's look into the deeper layer here, right? So we talked about, of course, the separate energies of the month itself, of the earth tiger, and then of course overall with the wood snake year itself, yeah? So when we stack it together, of course, we get two pieces of the information, of course, half of the Lapchun chart, if we analyze the Lapchun chart in full, right? That is very significant because this will be the energy that is carried forth from month to month and changes and flows with the different months when you stack up to it. So now we just look into this particular tool, right? So of course, yes, Yi Wood on surface, right? What can we do with it? As a layer, we talked about the ability of the snake energy in interaction or ignited or by activation with any other animal sign, right? It's able to give us so many different layers of opportunity, including the editing and the modification of Yi Wood, which is the energy of beautification, is the energy of diversification of, say, portfolio, lateral growth, and so on and so forth, right? And the ability, of course, to be flexible and adaptable, right? You can give it some form and structure with the metal, okay? And what else can we see from this, okay? So now we stack the animal signs together, then it is very interesting as well because, you know, not every year, how to say it? Or rather, the better way to say is that every year starts in a very different way, okay? Every year begins in a different way, even though every year begins with the tiger, okay? In this case, it is not the most, how to say, the most direct. Like last year when we started with the tiger energy, it was very exciting. It was straight away like, yay, period 9, right? Okay, wood produce fire, okay? So basically, or whether it's reverse growth or not, that was the excitement to February. But straight away came March and April, right? 2024, that is, that gives you a test, right? Or gives you the opportunity to or the how to say, the must look deeper blockages already occurring in March and also April for 2024. But for this year, it starts right at the first month, right? So of course, when the tiger meets the annual snake, what you get is two interrelations here. It is a harm, right? And it's also an ungrateful punishment, right? So those of you are familiar with these terms from following parts, whether you're a practitioner or somebody who is a fan, right? Or somebody who is already a solid practitioner, you know that this is associated with a feeling of discomfort. A harm is something that is more psychological compared to something like a clash, which is more obvious. So it is a clash, while it can be very surprising and sudden, or seem sudden, it is something that is very obvious for you to deal with, right? Or to take it as an opportunity of change, right? But in terms of harm, it is more of a psychological disturbance, right? So it usually can feel uncomfortable. Now, of course, if you master it in those ways that we have presented and shared and encourage you to do, right, including the ways to approach it from the, again, psychological perspective that was presented by Jessie in the annual talks, then you have an upper hand in handling this, right? But in addition to that, the additional layer of it, okay, we can analyze by looking into what's inside it. So as we know already, isn't it? The tiger contains Jia Wood, of course, as the main chi, and then Yang fire, Ping fire as the sub, and of course that Wu earth, which is what we've covered, right? It is not hiding there, it appears on top of the tiger, bringing us that possible limitation that I had talked about already. Then if we look into the snake, right, we know that it's mainly Ping fire, yes, and Keng metal, and then with that same residual of Yang earth. Now, with Keng and Ping interacting with Jia Wood, okay, so that's why in the deeper layers of studying the animal signs, you will see this, okay, explained in those depths, which I will explain in a nutshell for you to appreciate why it is important to have a certain mindset and attitude, especially when we start the solar new year, which is like happening in a couple of days' time, okay? So first, of course, we have the growth and reverse growth effect, right? So basically, from the purest perspective, if you look into the cycle of the 5 elements, right, wood goes to fire, right? And then fire goes to earth and so on and so forth, right? Not the other way around, right? It just is the way that the flow of the natural elements, right? Fire produces wood. So wood is strengthened by fire, whichever way that you want to see it. But in this case, of course, the fire is not burning fire, it's not ting, it's not yin fire, it is basically peng, which is basically sunlight. And because of that, there is this aspect of reverse growth. So when you bring it down to its practical expression, how does it show up in our life, right? It would be that I'm supposed to help you, but actually you are helping me instead. Or the other perspective, right? You were supposed to help me, but now I end up helping you instead. So that's why that seed of this, right, if we are not empowered enough, or if we are not in our place of stability or wisdom, it can trigger, right? It can trigger us when we are not in full power of this. Then if you look deeper into it, yes, we already have that double reverse synergy between the 2 elements. Then at the same time as well, there is Keng metal that is in the snake itself, which is carried with it. And of course, Keng metal is going to be against or counterbalancing or chopping, of course, the Jia wood itself. So on one hand, there is already wood producing fire, and if you talk about from the perspective of the fire in the snake, it's supposed to grow the wood in the tiger, but at the same time, the metal in the snake is going to cut the wood in the tiger. So you see that? So there is an assistance given, and then there is also a limitation that's given. There is a support that's given, but there's also, look, I support you, but I can also cut you. Can you see that? Right, so it's got a lot of subtext, they call it, in this so-called synergistic relationship. So 2 parties, if we look at it as one party representing each side, is going to feel these complications, right? Especially when they're not in, like I said, either or both are not in their full power, or in their exercising or making their controlling or processing their emotions with wisdom overall. And thus, that's why these 2 animal signs are also 2 out of 3 animal signs that are related in this other relationship that's called ungrateful punishment. So, and it's literally what it is basically translated or written out as, right? Feelings of people being ungrateful, or you are being accused of ungrateful, or lack of gratitude, and so on. So overall, I just categorize it as gratitude, okay? Because again, there's help that's rendered, right? But it's also kind of reciprocal, it works both ways. But then the main factor that is actually indirectly helping the yin or the tiger is also limiting it or giving it conditions, you can say, right? Or ultimately, possibly also having some sort of control or power overall, right? So I have a tiger in my chart, and I'm already experiencing this. So it's very interesting that, of course, we learn from our own life and so on, right? So I have this also in one area that's occurring at the moment, right? And it's manifested as we transited, right, from January to February and so on. So it is very interesting, and that's why overall, especially when you have either or both of these animal signs, it will be more relevant, but we see it as the start in the imagery and the energy that kickstarts the entire year itself. So that's why understanding how to handle this not so straightforward energy, more complications at the beginning of the year, is going to set you off and give you the best foundation for the rest of the year. So it is that important. Now we talk about metal, okay? So the growth of Keng metal cuts wood. So on one perspective, if we just look at it from the surface layer, right, it's going to feel like it's like a bit of a how to say it, like not so happy news like that, okay? So, but don't forget, it is also the Keng metal that is, right? Those of you who attended the annual talk or have watched or are watching the replay, right? It is also the most useful god for the entire year. Yeah, that's how important it is. So this so-called controlling factor, limiting to growth factor, which is not so great on how it sounds, right? But it's also the most useful element for the entire year. So, okay, so that of course makes it different, the scenario now, right? That means it is important. Whatever that is affected, that is manifested or felt at first in the tiger or in the jiao wood, which is what we've been emphasizing all this time, all throughout 2024, including, of course, maximizing the growth of it in winter, right? The last 3 months of 2024 is now going to be curtailed, controlled, chopped, cut, whatever it is, by Keng metal. Doesn't sound good, right? Okay, why does it have to go through this after we have basically talked about being able to maximize it and wanting to maximize it? Because it is also this year's most useful element, right? So that means it is necessary, right? And you can see it from many layers. If you want to take it further, right? What happens when Keng metal chops jiao wood? Of course, fire is sparked and so on and so forth. So in that perspective, this is important. Whatever it is that is felt as a harm or felt as a psychological disturbance in both the harm and the ungrateful punishment is going to be important lessons or emotions to be mastered. Because whatever that the snake brings in, it comes as a blessing, but it comes as well as possible as a punishment. That's why ungrateful punishment, right? And it can come as a surprise as well, but it is going to be good. It's going to be favorable if you allow things to be, particularly when you have the attitude and the mindset of gratitude. It means if it's going to be a win-win, there's going to be an imbalance of power, because unless you got two parties which are very equal, right, which is less likely a scenario than usually one party having at least slightly more power or leverage over the other one, right? It doesn't matter, because as long as growth is there, as long as there's some fine-tuning, there could be some discomfort, there could be some so-called perceived limitation, but if you work with it, it will all be favorable and positive. Okay, so now let's add some more color into this main crux of the information that I just shared with you. Okay, before that, of course, Jessie is already on board. Gong hei fa choi, right? Everyone, that's on the page. Just check here. Nancy, of course, also says happy CNY. Hello, Kong Yu from Cebu, Philippines. Hi. Right? Hi to everyone watching from Philippines and all over the world. Andrea says you're already enrolled. Thank you so much. Right? You're welcome, right, Andrea, for the information and also the lessons. Beth Go, Jennifer, Kong hei fa choi to you, right? To your whole family and also the whole clan. Right? Look forward to seeing you very, very soon. Pan Wei Chiang is also here with us, and anybody else who's watching who's not said hello yet. Right? Kong hei fa choi, Happy New Year to you. Let's look into the significance of the full, first of all, the new moon. Okay, that's the Chinese New Year new moon that occurred a few days ago, right? I already posted about this, but in a nutshell, if we look at the collective energies and the astrological alignment, right, we see that the theme overall is this upcoming stretch. Because remember, right, the first new moon, just like the first full moon, and just like the first start of spring, right, first day of spring, that tells us a lot about and establishes the energy for the entire year. So going back a couple of days, right, so what does this new moon that signifies the Chinese New Year all about, the lunar Chinese New Year that is, right? It's about the upcoming breakthrough to forge forward what's ahead. What's ahead means generally you can say for period 9, the remaining 18 years plus to go. Okay, so and breakthrough in the sense that it is something that is an anchor energy at the moment, right? In January, February, especially, right? You've seen things gone topsy-turvy. You've seen markets crash already, and you've seen, of course, the disturbances overall in the force, shall we say, right? To borrow a Star Wars term, isn't it? So this is because there is major realignment energies, just like when there is earth disturbances, right, in the most severe cases of, like, say, earthquakes, right? So that's a breakthrough from the deepest core of Earth perspective, isn't it? So only in those cases where then realignment is possible. So that's why it is uncomfortable, it is unstable, but yet it's also necessary for the next level to be rebuilt. So that is what is ahead. Now, and of course, what's ahead means how to, of course, be able to, let's say within the year, of course, to then look at the opportunities that exist within the chaos. That's on one level of things. But within this as well, we talk about breakthrough, it's very strong, the current energy for it. Is it going to be like as crazy as it is through the entire year? Possibly, right? But at the same time, we can also use this, that's signified by a lot of the energy of the planets, specific ones in specific activation at the moment, right, to again do that realignment that is important, right? And a lot of it is breaking free. It's not just breakthrough. I should have used the word break free that I used in my post, right? That is a more accurate term. It is breaking free from lingering constructs. So some of it is because due to our own fault, our own delays, of course, in taking action, for example. Some of it is just because, if you have been, for example, established in the industry for 20 years, whatever the industry might be, right? And you've realized in the past 2-3 years that, look, I've outgrown this industry at the truest of your core. You're not just running away, for example, right? And so you have made now plans ever since 2 years ago, right, which built into the plans from last year and then moving into plans for this year to, for example, to finally switch industry. But you may not be able to completely let go yet because of whatever, commitments, for example, responsibilities. So you have this upcoming 15 months for you to break free, right, from the past. And then, of course, it could also be some sort of, again, everything is our own doing, right? Some sort of limitation and blockage that we have created over the course of our previous part of our lives, right? And now it takes a bit of work, right? A lot of work and a bit of time for you to completely break free from it, to completely release it. So the upcoming about 15 months or so gives us that opportunity so that when we get clear into the pure fire year of 2026, right, then we are able to have in our hands the power and the activation to create as much magic as we are able to by that point in time. So for now, we have to let go and just drop off the remnants of previous limitations. Okay, and of course within that we can find the opportunities within the chaos of the year, and anchoring this. That's why it's very important to still go through the ropes, right? No matter who you are, what is your biological gender, for example, right? And be able to appreciate and work with, right, the energies of a balance of the masculine and also the feminine. Now, of course, we know the emphasis on the feminine has been coming up ever since prior to period 9, and it is, of course, a key feature of period 9 and its overall energetic patterns, right? So when we match with the pattern, then we work with the energy of the period. Then overall, underlying all of this, there is a deep anchor to depth, personal depth, meaning in life, and overall spirituality. So the more we are anchored that way, the more that we are able to work with the current energies generally, right? Including the lunar energies for this current year itself. Then taking a quick look, right? So from Chap Gome, when we come to the full moon, on about February 12, right? So that gives us the opposite perspective, a complementary perspective. I like to use that word better, right? And this, of course, is emphasizing clarity of mind, right? And related to that, of course, is being able to, depending on our degree of empowerment, to use that empowered mind energy, which is the start of manifestation. It is the seed power of manifestation. And that is the energy that is activated in the first full moon for the lunar year. So that is very significant because it means that it is going to be another major theme of the lunar energy, the yin inner feminine principle that is governing the earth, and of course for us individually as souls and energy bodies ourselves, right? And again, another reminder here on the importance of the balance, of course, of the masculine principle, which is being healed, especially from the last couple of months of 2024, and including January and including February, moving into March also. There is that healing of wounded masculine that's been happening and inbuilt by the astrological alignments, as well as we know, right, the more priority realizations and the importance of honoring the feminine energy as well, which is not as recent, but has been, of course, been activated for the recent years to come. Now, just to give you the complete color to things, right? So the first point here, we look into where certain planets are, the highlights of which, and in what signs they signify in the Western astrology perspective, right? Which then tells us a little bit more detailed information on the overlapping convergence of energy for the current moment. And remember, the current moment is very important because it kickstarts the entire year itself, yeah? So here we have the mental clarity and strength, which is another theme that is highlighted by the full moon, isn't it? So that's also because, right, the planet Mercury, which is all about the instant day-to-day communication that is not only spoken through the mouth or activated through the throat chakra, but it's also in our mind power itself, okay? So that mental strength and clarity is emphasized, right? Because Mercury has passed through now, right, through the entire sign of Aquarius, and Aquarius is the season that we're in. So the overlap of January into the first half of February, right, because that is how the Western signs are in between the Chinese astrological signs. So, and the current season now is the season of Aquarius. And of course, because of that, the season is in or activating Aquarius, which is where we are at the moment. And Pluto, right, as you've been following at all, and even if you're not, using Western astrology per se or following the transits of the planet, you know that this significance of Pluto moving into Aquarius for good, right? Before that, of course, for a couple of years, it was moving in touch into Aquarius, but it moved back into Capricorn, the previous sign, in and out for about 1-2 years like that. But then ever since recent months, it's gone straight into Aquarius, which means now it is straight into period 9. So that's one interpretation of it. And there is a relation of where Jupiter is. Jupiter, of course, is the wood star, which is the main energy of our solar system, right? So that is now, or has been, in fact, for quite some time, but it's been mostly retrograde, but now it is forward in the sign of Gemini, and there's a correlation of Gemini with Aquarius. It's all got to do with metal and fire energy, a combination of both of them, right? So, and this is where basically it is the mind power, the thought process, right, which is then able to link into you can say that the connection, energetic connections which are beyond 3D reality. At the same time, of course, it is able to then induce or relate to or connect to the energy of up-leveling, breakthroughs, right, at a very, very rapid, magical sort of phase or fashion, right? So all of it is emphasized at this particular moment on one level. Then, of course, I already spoke about this, okay? Basically, in the past few months especially, right, we found that the planet Mars and planet Venus, right, these both interact in a way through their individual movements and with each other, right, in a you can say a complementary, harmonious, balancing way. So even though sometimes they may be opposing each other, right? But the idea is that they're complementing each other at its core. So the theme here is, of course, the balance of masculine and also feminine. And then the other also very important understanding of how this year is kick-started off, right, is this breaking free. Hence, with the break free energy, we also have the power up energy that is enabled as well, right? True, of course, if you analyze it, what are the significations, what planets actually tell us that? Planet Uranus, which is associated with the Aquarius sign, and that's been, of course, a theme of how it's basically been moving through the sign of Taurus. Taurus is, you can say, sensory 3D perception, anything that's real from a smell, touch, sight, taste, sound perspective, which means it is real in our tangible form, right? That is the limitation that we can also be part of our material world, and how this extra breakthrough, very, very strong volatile energy that is powered by planet Uranus has been pushing through it, and now, of course, it's forward. It's no longer retrograde like it's been for many months in the sign of Taurus ever since the end of January 30th, yeah, overall. And then Uranus will be moving into Gemini, which is basically, like I said, a very mental energy. It's a very short-term connection, connectivity, linkage, mental-wise, communication through speech, through energizing our throat chakra, so on and so forth. It will be in that sign as early as the next few months, but it will still be going back and forth between these two, right? Hence giving us that picture. You want to break free, it is powered, it is enabled by the astrological alignments that we have at the moment, but it is also going to take a little bit more work for us to completely undergo, right, so that we can be free of the previous right constructs that we've already built, especially those prior to 2024 themselves, right? So all of it paints this big picture, right, and this in-depth picture that I've been sharing with you, right, for the past almost 1 hour now, right? So that's why I have themed and I have basically titled this first month's update as gratitude and also having an abundance mindset, right? Because remember, I was referring to all of this, right? Especially when we look into the analysis of how the year starts off with the Earth Tiger sign, and then how the Earth Tiger is in relating to the so-called challenges, but also the opportunities of the entire wood snake itself. Yeah. So when we have an abundance mindset, we are able to see things from a larger perspective. If we have gratitude that is felt truly in our bones, we will not be bothered and we will not be triggered by who is in more power. We will not be triggered by feelings of how we will feel that someone is in assistance to us, but it's also in a way putting us in our proper place, right? Or having some degree of control over, because that is in the synergy and the symbiosis overall of how the year starts off. So this is important, right? So if you are able to free yourself from this and overall just have that deep gratitude within you and cultivate, right? Which takes practice, because we can say an abundance mindset is very healthy for all of us, but when we triggered by what? Fear, scarcity, triggered by shame, humiliation, whatever that's still remnants of our unhealed energy, right? Then it's easy to switch out of abundance overall. Okay? So that's why these two are your key reminders for how best to establish not only the month, but to make full use of the upcoming whole entire wood snake year itself. Okay? So that's what I have to share with you, right? So thank you so much, everyone, to Jasmine, to Teresa, to Felicia as well. So now that we have this general backdrop out as well, right? So I believe I want to invite our family here, okay, right, to come in and say hi and to wish everybody Kong Hei Fa Choi.
Kong Hei Fa Choi.
Right? Right? Yes, we'll come to that, lah. Yeah, so but come in first, right? And then Coco is here as well, right?
Yay.
So like.
We have 2 mandarin oranges here.
Yeah.
We cannot fit in.
Where are the mandarin oranges? Oh, these two are.
Yeah, these 2 mandarin oranges lah. Same pattern one. Hi, 恭喜发财 everyone. Okay, please do your promo first.
Okay, right.
Gary is there.
Yes.
Felicia is
Hi
there.
everyone. Okay, let's do that. Not say hi. Okay, you want to carry her? Okay. Okay, so let's see. Yeah, so hope you're having a wonderful, it's an official 4th day, right?
Yes.
4th day of Chinese New Year, right? We are also having plans in the midst of all this, but I will say, right, because okay, yeah. Wow. We were so excited about that. So anyway, I don't know which part you called and which part you didn't now, but yes, so this workshop is on March the 1st, 4 weeks from now. Okay, so I know many of you are already signed up for it, so I look forward to seeing you in class, sharing with you this layers of this amazing snake year, okay? So hope you're able to join me. If you've not already, please do sign up for it before the prices move up to the next level. Okay?
Yeah.
So that's happening on March the 1st, okay? Thank you so much, everyone. Do you have a New Year message to share?
恭喜發財。
Okay, and we'll have more to share as well, right? So something that we wanted to do also, but we couldn't quite get things prepared, right? But that will come out soon.
Yeah.
Alright.
Yep. Coming out soon. So I plenty to prepare. And I'm on coffee high officially, so I should have finished the whole
Yes.
cup.
Yes. Okay. Wow. Okay. The firecrackers are back. Pop, 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 pop. Okay. So have a wonderful. Still no sound. Is it?
Still no sound?
Should have, or maybe it was a delayed.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
So Alina, I think the sound should be back for now, right? But thanks for that, Arif, right? And of course, hey, hi Felicia. Okay, now thanks, Alina. Okay, thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Yes. So have a wonderful rest of
Doshi.
yes the celebration period. Those of you who are celebrating still. Right, and then of course, energize the energies with the activations, the annual talk, and for the entire 15 days lah. Right, for the first 15 days of the year, especially now that we're going to go into the lunar kickoff. The solar kickoff. That's right, in less than 2 days from now. Right. So, okay, thank you. Take care. Right, bye bye.